girl. I knew it was something up with that crap. Al Be Sure and Luenell, honey, did you feel like something was weird? Them hooking up and linking up together? Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Honey, I came across this video. I can't share it fast enough. And I gotta say, honey, what do y'all think about this? Comment below. Let's watch this video and see what's really going on in these streets.
It's a nice day, Humbert, of your love, darling, because I love you so much, honey.
We are extremely worried about Al Be Sure and Luenell's relationship, and what is really going on between them is not what either side of the internet thinks. He nearly died in 2022. She was the woman whispering in his ear while he was in a coma. And 6 months after burying her own husband, she went public with the man she helped bring back to life.
I have such respect and admiration for this woman.
The internet cannot decide if this is love or gratitude, and neither of them has answered the one question that would settle it.
Oh, I'm old.
Mr. Odie.
I'm like, you see how thick my glasses
are. They're not taking it fine.
What they are hiding behind the captions and the kisses is the part that has everyone concerned. So let's get into it. Nobody had Al Be Sure and Luenell on their 2026 bingo card. Nobody. But on Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, Luenell posted a carousel of photos and videos on Instagram that made the entire internet stop scrolling and start squinting. The images showed the two of them cuddled up, kissing, holding each other in ways that left absolutely zero room for interpretation. She captioned it, "Yup, it's love. Finally out of the shadows. 2026. Let's go, baby." Al jumped into the comments within minutes and called her his boo-boo kitty. And from that moment forward, the internet split in half. One side was genuinely happy for them. Two people in their late 50s and 60s finding love after everything life had thrown at them felt like something worth celebrating. The other side could not process what they were looking at. Al Be Sure was the light-skinned general of New Jack Swing, the man whose voice on Night and Day had women across America losing their composure in 1988. Luenell was the loudest, most unfiltered comedian in the business, famous for playing a prostitute in Barat and saying things on stage that made grown men blush. The visual contrast between a smooth R and B heartthrob and a raunchy comedian was something the internet simply could not reconcile, and the commentary got ugly fast.
See, I'm unworthy of your love, darling, because I love you so.
People called it a publicity stunt. They said the photos looked too polished, too produced, too perfectly timed. Industry insiders privately questioned whether the whole thing was a social experiment designed to keep both names in the headlines during a slow news cycle. Fellow comedians raised eyebrows. Musicians who had come up with Al whispered about it in group chats. The skeptics wanted to know who was behind the camera, who wrote the caption, and who stood to gain the most from the attention. But the biggest question was the simplest one. How did these two end up together? And the answer, when it finally came out, was more complicated and more emotional than the memes had prepared anyone for. You see, they did not meet in 2026. Al Be Sure and Luenell first crossed paths in 2011, over 15 years before the hard launch that broke the internet. The introduction happened through her bodyguard, a man who had previously worked security for Al. It was a professional connection at first, two people in the entertainment industry who ended up in each other's orbit through someone they both trusted. Luenell told the Side Dish YouTube channel that things were not romantic between them at the start, that they were just cool, just friends, just two people who enjoyed each other's company without any pressure to make it into something more.
Yeah, but it's not the beginning. Like, this is a 15-year friendship.
Al briefly resurfaced in the dating scene in 2012 with singer Karen White. But that relationship ended quietly, and after it, his love life went completely dark. The man who had once been one of the most desired R&B artists in the country seemed to have stepped away from romance entirely. Nobody noticed. Nobody asked. The spotlight had moved on from Albie Shore a long time ago, but the friendship with Luenell did not go anywhere. It sat in the background, growing slowly, unfolding in private conversations and quiet check-ins that nobody outside their circle knew about. Then, in July 2023, the two of them went live on Instagram together to discuss Al's health recovery. And something slipped out that the audience was not supposed to catch. Luenell called him baby. She told him she wanted to come sit on his lap and feed him breakfast. Al called her my love. The flirtation was wide open, completely unguarded, and the viewers who were watching in real time did not know what to make of it. Some were amused, some were confused, some were openly disgusted. When Luenell rode out of the shadows in her 2026 announcement, the phrase carried weight that went beyond a cute caption. She said publicly that this is not new, confirming the relationship predated the hard launch by years. But neither she nor Al ever said exactly when the friendship crossed the line into romance, and that missing piece of the timeline would become the thing the internet could not stop picking at. Whatever the real start date of the romance, the event that bonded them permanently was the medical crisis that almost took Albie Shore out of this world entirely. In 2022, his body failed. Not one organ, all of them. Multi-system organ failure put him into a medically induced coma that lasted 2 months. He spent 38 days on a ventilator, breathing through a machine while the people around him prepared for the possibility that he was not coming back. His kidneys shut down, and he was placed on dialysis. His liver was damaged badly enough that he would eventually need a transplant. The man who had once sold 2 million copies of his debut album was now fighting to stay alive in a hospital bed, and the outcome was not guaranteed. Luenell showed up. Not once, not twice, but consistently, while other visitors came and went and eventually stopped coming altogether. She sat beside his bed while he was unconscious and whispered into his ear. She talked to a man who could not respond, who could not open his eyes, who gave no outward sign that he knew anyone was in the room. Al later said those whispers helped him find his way back to consciousness, that her voice became the thread he held onto while everything else was slipping away.
I have such respect and admiration for this woman.
The story was deeply moving, and Al told it with the conviction of a man who genuinely believed he owed his life to the woman next to him. But the internet heard it differently. If Luenell had been sitting at his bedside as a friend and a caretaker, when exactly did she become his girlfriend? Was the love born from real attraction, or was it born from gratitude? Was he in love with Luenell, or was he in love with the fact that she had not abandoned him when everyone else did? The distinction mattered to the public, even if it did not matter to them, and it became the dividing line that split opinion about the relationship from the moment the first photo was posted. But the backlash did not come from nowhere. It came from who both of these people had been before they found each other, and from the expectations the public still carried about what their love lives were supposed to look like. Albie Shore was not just a singer. He was a moment in time. His 1988 debut, In Effect Mode, went double platinum and sat at number 1 on the R&B chart for 7 straight weeks. Quincy Jones had personally handpicked him. He was the pretty boy of New Jack Swing, the face that defined an era alongside Keith Sweat and Guy. Women who grew up in the late 1980s remembered exactly what Albie Shore meant to them. Those memories did not include Luenell. His personal life after the music faded carried its own weight. He married Kim Porter in 1989. Their son, Quincy, was born in 1991, and the same year, the marriage fell apart. Kim moved on with Diddy, who raised Quincy as his own, though Al later clarified that no formal adoption ever took place. Quincy wrote an open letter in 2009 saying, "The spitting image is all he has taken from his biological father." Kim died in November 2018. And Al went on camera in a 2025 Peacock documentary alleging that she had warned him to stay away from Diddy because he would get killed. and that she had been putting her own life in danger by saying it. Luenell's past was quieter, but just as heavy. She married the man she called Mr. Rarely in June 2001 in a ceremony so private that neither family was invited. The marriage was rocky, but the love was real. On their 20th anniversary, she wrote that it took a real man to handle a woman like her and let her be free to fly. They divorced, but stayed close, remaining in each other's lives through his long battle with prostate cancer and COPD. Mr. Rarely died on June 23, 2024. Luenell's tribute said everything. No more breathing machines, no more needles, no more suffering. She wrote that she had never been loved like that before, and would probably never be loved like that again. 6 months later, she was on Instagram calling Al B. Sure her man, two people arriving at the same place from grief and near death, carrying histories that the public had already formed opinions about. That collision of pasts is what made the present so hard for people to accept. The criticism came from everywhere at once, and almost none of it was actually about the relationship. It was about what the relationship represented. The age gap between them, 10 years, was not unusual by any standard, but the internet processed it through the lens of gender in a way that revealed more about the audience than it did about the couple. An older man with a younger woman barely generates a comment. An older woman with a younger man, especially when that woman does not fit the mold of what Hollywood considers attractive, triggers a conversation that most people are not equipped to have, honestly. The beauty standards debate became the loudest part of the controversy. Fans who had grown up worshipping Al as the light-skinned general could not accept that the man they remembered had chosen someone who looked like Luenell. The comments were vicious and specific. People called her undeserving. They said he had mommy issues. They said he was settling because his health had limited his options, and she was the only one willing to take on the burden of a sick man. The attacks were aimed not at the relationship, but at Luenell's body, her face, her age, and her right to be loved by someone the public had decided belonged to a different category of woman. The Marina Del Rey video made things worse. A clip showed them on a date, cuddling and kissing in public, with Al joking that he wanted to put his tongue all over her face.
I think that people feel I'm unworthy.
The video was aimed directly at the haters, a deliberate act of defiance from a couple that knew exactly what the reaction would be. Some people found it refreshing. Others called it cringeworthy and begged them to stop. Then came the theory that refused to die, the caretaker-to-partner accusation. The argument that Luenell had gone from visiting Al in the hospital to sleeping in his bed, and that the jump from nurse to girlfriend was powered by his gratitude rather than genuine desire. That he was repaying loyalty with love, because he could not tell the difference between the two anymore. Al and Luenell both denied it repeatedly, insisting the attraction predated the coma by years. But the theory stuck because it gave the public a story they found more comfortable than the truth. That a man who could have had anyone had looked at Luenell and chosen her because he wanted to, not because he had to. Luenell did not absorb the backlash quietly. She absorbed it, processed it, and turned it into ammunition. During a March 2026 comedy show, a fan said out loud that she was undeserving of a man like Al B. Sure, and Luenell stopped the entire set to address it. She did not laugh it off or deflect with a joke. She looked at the person and told them plainly that she was worthy of love and affection, regardless of what anyone in that room or on the internet believed about how she looked. The moment went viral and became the defining clip of the controversy. A woman standing on a stage refusing to let the world shrink her into something small enough to dismiss. Al came just as hard from the other direction. He started jumping into Instagram comment sections personally, not through a PR team, not through a publicist, but with his own thumbs, tagging trolls by name and telling them to say it to his face. The protective energy was aggressive and unfiltered, and it was directed at anyone who made a comment about Luenell's appearance, her worthiness, or her motives. His position never wavered. This woman stood in the gap for me while I was dying. She showed up when the people who were supposed to be there disappeared. If you have a problem with who I love, that is your problem, not mine.
Respect and admiration for this woman, if you only knew.
Madame Noir published an op-ed that reframed the whole conversation in terms the internet had been avoiding. The article argued that the backlash was never really about Al and Luenell. It was about the fact that society cannot handle a woman who looks like Luenell being chosen by a man the world considers desirable. The piece pointed out that women are expected to expire, to lose desirability as they age, and that a celebrity relationship only matters to the public when it is visually appealing. Luenell violated every one of those rules simply by existing in Al's arms, and the internet punished her for it. She turned all of it into stand-up material. The question of how she pulled Al B. Sure became a recurring bit on her 2026 tour that left audiences in tears from laughing. The thing the internet tried to use as a weapon against her became the funniest part of her show, and the woman they called undeserving was selling out venues while the people mocking her stayed home behind keyboards. Even with the defenses and the op-eds and the sold-out comedy shows, the questions have not gone away. The couple has already started branding themselves as AL, a shared identity that appeared almost immediately after the hard launch, and that critics say feels more like a product rollout than an organic expression of love. The speed of the branding, combined with the polished quality of their public appearances, continues to feed the theory that the relationship was designed from the beginning as a content strategy rather than a genuine romance. The timeline remains the thing nobody can resolve. They met in 2011. The Instagram live flirtation happened in July 2023. The hard launch came in January 2026. Luenell said, "This is not new, but Mr. Rarely did not die until June 2024. And even though Luenell and her husband were divorced by then, they had remained close enough that she mourned him publicly as the love of her life." The phrase "out of the shadows" implies something was being hidden, and neither Al nor Luenell has explained what those shadows actually were, or why the relationship needed to stay inside them for as long as it did. When asked about marriage, Luenell shut it down with the kind of honesty that made her famous in the first place. She said their prenups would be too complicated, that neither of them wanted to get married anyway, and that the best way to ruin a great relationship was to put a ring on it. The comment played as comedy, but it also removed the one commitment that might have silenced the people who believed the whole thing was performative. Al's upcoming memoir, Do You Believe Me Now?, is scheduled for September 2026 through Simon & Schuster. The book promises to address his ties to Diddy, his relationship with Kim Porter, and the medical crisis that nearly killed him. Whether it will also explain when and how the relationship with Luenell actually started is the question that fans and skeptics are both waiting on. The Diddy connection adds a layer that nobody anticipated, given Al's public allegations about Kim Porter's death and his claims that Diddy threatened anyone connected to her. What nobody can deny is that two people the world had largely moved on from are now the most talked about couple in entertainment.